Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Wisdom for a Man's Self, an essay by Francis Bacon. Bacon begins the essay by saying, "An ant is a wise creature for itself, but it is a shrewd thing in an orchard or garden. And certainly men that are great lovers of themselves waste the public. Divide with reason between self love and society, and be so true to thyself as thou be not false to others, especially to thy king and country." That is, he's saying, when he says and, it is actually reference to a well knitted and an intelligent community. And because the ant is a member of that community, it is very knowledgeable. It knows about how it should behave in that community and what is good for it. And actually, because it is behaving like the other ants, that is, it is very hardworking and it is relentless, which is actually the nature of the ants, it is benefiting through it. But when we see, there is no benefit for the orchard or the garden in which the ant is. And even though the ant has all the power and capability to do so very much, because an ant can build such a big ant hill, it can save so much of food, but the ant is too busy thinking only about itself. And he says there are some humans who also have these traits. They only do their job so that they can be better in their own standing, but because of them, they will not be any use to the society. And so he says that one must also work for the good of the others, particularly for the king and the country. It is a poor center of a man's actions himself. It is right earth, for that only stands fast upon his own center, whereas all things that has affinity with the heavens move upon the center of another, which they benefit. The referring of all to a man's self is more tolerable in a sovereign prince, because themselves are not only themselves, but their good and evil is at the peril of the public fortune. And so he says, people who are so intelligent, self indulgent, they are enthralled with themselves that they forget about the people who are around them, that is a society. And this self obsession, however, is okay if he is a prince or a ruler, because a ruler is not just him, he is a representative of the people of the kingdom, and therefore his happiness or unhappiness will affect the masses. But it is a desperate evil in a servant to a prince or a citizen in a republic. For whatsoever affairs pass such a man's hands, he crooketh them to his own ends, which must needs be often eccentric to the ends of his master or state. Therefore let princes or states choose such servants as have not this mark, except they mean their service should be made by the accessory. That is, he says, if a public servant or a government employee, they are going to make illegal money, then it is a terrible crime. And why it is a terrible crime is when the government's money is taken away by these fat corrupt politicians, it is not going to benefit the people. So Bacon says that all these corrupt people should not be as public servants, because when they are public servants, they have access to the money which is in the government, which is for the people's benefit. And what these corrupt people will do is they will take away that money only for their own self, that is for their personal. That which maketh the effort more perilous is that all proportion is lost. It were disproportion enough for the servant's good to be preferred before the master's. But yet it is a greater extreme when a little good of the servant shall carry things against a great good of the master's. That is, when you are a public servant, you steal government given funds, you are throwing the whole system out of balance and out of proposition. And in fact, you become a slave to your own greed. You may think that you really need the money, but if the money that you have stolen had reached the people, then that money would have done much more good. And this theft of yours, that is taking the public money, is not only hurting the benefactor, it is hurting the would have been receivers more. That is, the people who should have received the benefits will be affected because you have taken away the money and that has not reached them. And yet, that is the case of bad officers, treasurers, ambassadors, generals, and other false and corrupt servants. which set a bias upon the bowl of their own petty ends and envies to the overthrow of their master's great and important affairs. And for the most part, the good such servants receive is after the model of their own fortune. But the hurt they sell for the good is after the model of their master's fortune. Now these corrupt public servants, they steal money from the government only for their own gain, and thereby they increase their power. And when they increase the power, they get more money because they are in a more powerful position. And in this way, they keep on increasing the power, and then they get more money, then they increase the power, and they benefit from crashing the system while the government's plans all will go to a waste. And certainly it is the nature of extreme self-lovers, as they will set a house on fire and it were but to roast their eggs. And yet these men many times hold credit with their masters, because their study is but to please them and profit themselves, and for either respect they will abandon the good of their affairs. He says that corrupt and self-obsessed politicians, they don't care about the welfare of the people. They don't care about the welfare of the country. This is like a man burning down a house only to roast his eggs. And therefore, these corrupt public servants also, for their own interest, they will not see to the interest of the state. And therefore, the welfare of the state itself will collapse. And these corrupt, self-intelligent people are still holding such powerful positions because they are very good at two things. One is they will please the people who are more powerful than them, and second is they will profit themselves. And for these two reasons, they will gladly forget the good of the people and only think about their own profit. Wisdom for a man's self is, in many branches thereof, a depraved thing. It is the wisdom of rats that will be sure to leave a house somewhat before it fall. It is the wisdom of the fox that thrust out the badger who digged and made room for him. It is the wisdom of crocodiles that shed tears when they could devour. Now he says that the wisdom of human being is not necessarily a good thing. It can drive people to do horrible, unforgivable things. And here he is mentioning a few animals to show what state they will lead to. But that which is specially to be noted is that those which, as Cicero says of Pompey, that is, lovers of themselves without a rival are many times unfortunate. That is, you should have a lover there must be another person who is also in love with that same person, and that time only you are fortunate because that lady loves you more than the other person. And whereas they have all their times sacrificed to themselves, they become in the end themselves sacrifices to the inconstancy of fortune, whose wings they sought by their self-wisdom to have pinioned. That is, these corrupt people spend their entire life only manipulating and scheming, all for wealth, power and riches. But at the same time, there is no guarantee that situation will continue in the same way, because majority of the people who have cheated their way into money and power are often spending that money and using the power in the wrong way, and they end up penniless at one time, because wealth never stays with its possessor permanently, and they more often suffer ignominy and deprivation. And the manner in which money and power come and go cannot be thoroughly predicted by anyone. No one can say that your money will be with you and you'll always be in the same powerful position. And though the corrupt have sacrificed all their lives, they ironically end up sacrificed to the constancy of fortune, whose wings they thought they have bound by their wisdom. But in the end, they also will be a sufferer, says Bacon, and hence his essay. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please add it in the comment box. Hype the video so that many of them can see this video. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.